Hey, welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Tragedy. I am one of the hosts, the Kingpin Angel, King of the Streets, former ECW original. Can I say it any longer? On my left, I got one of the greatest guys I ever met. I mean, even though the guy at the bottom, but he's at the bottom, he doesn't count. But Pierce, let me introduce you to Pierce, one of the greatest guys I ever met, and one of the greatest guys I ever met. Let me introduce him. Hey, Pierce, go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Piers Austin. I am from Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance, a page on Facebook. I am the host of Shooting the Shit Uncensored, where I interview professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities from around the world every week. And I do that live, so you can follow me on Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance on Facebook and YouTube, where you can see my interviews live. You can comment, ask questions live. It's very interactive. Interviews. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And also now with Wrestling with Tragedy with my boy Angel and Juan down below.
Well, guys, my name is Kevin, aka Juan Strowman. As Angel pointed out, I am the man on the bottom. Started from the bottom and I'm still here. But anyway, guys, it's a pleasure being back with you guys for a third episode. And you guys have made this this podcast the overnight success that it has become over the last 3 weeks, and we cannot thank you enough for that. So, as always, thank you for tuning into Wrestling with Tragedy. And while you're here, in case you haven't done it yet, it takes 2 seconds, guys. Hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell to stay notified. I know you loved the last episode. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. You guys loved that episode. So you're going to love this one just as much. Go ahead and hit that bell to stay notified so you get the notification every time we drop a new video. And if you need more wrestling in your life, you can always catch me at Wrestling Review Society on Facebook and YouTube, where I host the War Room every Thursday night. What is that, Kevin? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to tell you. That's where I bring you guys face-to-face with your favorite wrestlers of all time, whoever they may be. It's also a very interactive interview, so you can ask any question you would like. So, those wrestlers that you thought to yourself as a little kid, I really want to ask them this question. Well, now Big Daddy Kev is allowing you to do that. So head on over to Wrestling Review Society and subscribe to that as well. And tune in every Thursday night for the War Room. But that's there. This is now. This is Wrestling with Tragedy, Episode 3. Kevin, Angel, the Kingpin himself, and that other guy, Piers. And we're going to be discussing the fabulous Moolah.
That was quite an intro, Kev. I have to admit that was quite an intro.
I'm sure you'll copy the cliff notes from it, and you'll have something like that next week.
I'll try my best. Maybe I'll put a bit more of an Aussie, swing to it. You know what I mean? But look, it's great to be back with you guys for another episode of Wrestling with Tragedy. It's always a pleasure when I get to sit down with two good friends.
Dude, I gotta tell you, week to week, our numbers are just getting better and better.
You know what's fucked up? I'm getting this Shawn Michael eye that's kind of drifting, and I'm just looking at the.
Well, don't worry, Angel. It's showtime. We're gonna put that lazy eye back to work.
Try to knock it back in place. But anyway, I need an eye patch, like Pierre, not you, Pierre. The guy who was in the oh my God, the Quebecers with the eye patch.
Yeah. Pierre Oulet, whatever his name is. Was that PC? That wasn't PCO, was it?
Yeah.
Pierre Carl Oulet. PCO around? No.
Oh yeah, PCO. Yeah, that's him. In ROH.
Yeah.
That's him.
Okay. Yeah. I was just trying to remember that. He's having an amazing run right now, though.
Yeah, 50 something, like 56, some shit like that. But anyway.
So anyway, this week, Kevin, why don't you tell everyone what we're going to be discussing and breaking down this week?
Break it down.
Guys, as you know, I guess it'd be about 3 years ago now. So WWE, right around WrestleMania, they had the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and it was right around when they were doing, the women's Money in the Bank, the women's battle, or the women's Royal Rumble. So the women were really getting everything that men had, and rightfully so. So WWE came up with this idea to have the fabulous Moolah Memorial Battle Royal, much like the Andre the Giant, where all the women would compete, the winner would get a trophy, and stuff like that. And everybody was really excited about it. It kind of it livened things up. It really went to the women's revolution, and really was putting women on the map for all the good reasons. But whenever you break news like this, whenever something like this comes out, it's always followed by some kind of negativity, whether it be, oh well, it shouldn't have been named after this person, it should have been named after that person, or this person did this, they shouldn't have had that recognition. Well, this was no exception. Literally within 2 days of announcing the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, we started getting all these whistleblowers and people coming forward saying, well, Fabulous Moolah, she pretty much ran a whorehouse, a brothel, whatever you want to call it, where she was taking younger talent and saying, if you want to get booked or if you want to go and perform, you be nice to these promoters and they'll be nice to you. And yeah, that's such a common thing to say. Be nice to somebody, they'll be nice to you. The golden rule: treat others as you'd like to be treated. However, Moolah meant something very, very different. There's been plenty of people saying she did this. There's been plenty of people saying she didn't. But we're here to pretty much discuss what has been said and give our own opinions on it. And like I said, guys, as always, even though this is a recorded podcast, it is very fan interactive. All you have to do is hit us up on our Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you follow social media, and submit your questions, comments, and concerns, and we'll definitely get to those. So, with all the formalities out of the way, Fabulous Moolah, right, whether you agree or don't agree, changed women's wrestling. Without Moolah, there may not have been women's wrestling. However, the tactics used by Moolah were it left a lot to be desired. It left a lot of questions to be asked. So Moolah, through a series of events, ended up becoming the booker and promoter for all women wrestling, and she had her talent living on her property with her. So it was kind of like the Fabulous Moolah compound. And she managed all of them, and she got a cut of whatever they made. But she really started emphasizing, hey, you got to be nice to these people. There's been many of people that have come forward about this. So before we dive too deep into it, I've been talking long enough. So let me go to the man who loves to hear his own voice. Piers, what are your thoughts on the overall aspect of this Moolah controversy?
I say, mate.
Well, mate, I think what Moolah was really doing was running the Fabulous Whorehouse. She was putting women in these situations, and and promising them, the Hollywood lifestyle and the champagne dreams and all that good, hocus pocus. But in reality,
that hogwash
bullshit. But and in reality, she was putting these young women in situations to have sex or to whatever they are being instructed to do in order for them to be able to perform as a professional wrestler. Moolah's always these stories that have come out, it's very clear that Moolah's always been out for Moolah. She's always been out for herself to make money, fuck everybody else. And that's been clear in obviously the history about her and with what's been documented over the years.
Well, the thing that just throws me off kilt right here is it's just like using Kevin as an example. We know he's a dick from the beginning. All of a sudden somebody says he's a dick. Somebody says he's a dick, I'm going to be shocked. I just think that Vince knew what was going on. This is not something new. This is not something that just like boom exploded. This has been happening through the years. So Vince was aware. I'm just speculating. Because if he knew about the Pat Patterson situation, because this is almost the same thing. Instead of her getting the nookie, she was pimping out the nookie. And I mean, it's not like somebody just sat there and go, you know what I'm going to say? They've been probably saying something from the giddy up. And the only reason that I think that it came to fruition is because Snickers, if I remember, Snickers was the ones like, yo, we're going to drop our sponsorship because we heard this and we're just pulling it if you don't change the name. I
Mm.
mean, that's my assumption because if Snickers or whatever didn't get involved, then please, Kevin or Pierce, correct me if I'm wrong if it was Snickers or not. But if they didn't say anything, then it would have just fell on deaf ears, and it would have still been the Moolah's Cup. I just think they just a lot of money involved.
I'm pretty sure it was Snickers. Yeah, I definitely agree.
It
that,
was.
that they were. Yeah, they were the ones that pulled the plug. But the thing was, how come it took so long for all this shit to really come out?
Because
Well,
what
see-
happens on the mile stays on the mile.
Well,
Yeah, but
here's
come on, like this happened. Like this all came out like post mortis, right? Like this is like she was dead.
Yeah,
well,
she
I think
died.
it goes. I think
Good.
it goes back to. I think it goes back to like we stated with the Pat Patterson case. We lived in a time back then where it wasn't acceptable to come forward about things like this, and times change, society evolves, and now it is okay to come forward, and women are treated with respect, and not so much as, oh well, she was probably asking for it or something like that. So with the advancements of society, and in my opinion, all these victims have become calloused to what had happened, and they really just tried to put it in the back of their mind and move on. But then when you see somebody who had done these things or orchestrated these things, now they're being recognized again on such a high level. It really um, it really opens up those wounds that have since closed, and now you're reliving it all the time because you may have forgot all about her, you may have forgot all the things she's done, and now that she's getting this recognition, those wounds are becoming fresh again because now everywhere you look, oh, fabulous Moolah this, fabulous Moolah that, and every time you see your name it just takes you back to what exactly she orchestrated you to do, whether she did or didn't. Once again, this is a case of all allegations, and the fabulous Moolah has since passed on when this came out, so she was never able to publicly defend herself. Not to say it would change my mind whether she did or didn't. Like I said, this is really close to the Pat Patterson case in the sense that the time frame it happened in, nobody was really coming forward, and at the same time, there's so much evidence to support what was being said, and the only argument that I've seen the actual females who were there come out and say is, I'm not going to say Fabulous Moolah did this because I don't want to admit that I was a whore.
But the thing is this: why is it that all of a sudden, hey, she's dead, and then again, I'm reverting back to the Pat Patterson story because it's the same thing, but he's still working at the office, and he's just like Milton from Office Space in the basement, with his red stapler, and he's just, he's still. That's what I'm just saying. It's just so weird that. Okay, yeah, Moolah's still in the Hall of Fame, which that's fine, just like Pat Patterson. But then now they took her name off the Battle Royal thing. It's just like it's just double side. It's just one sided. I mean, it's just like
And
there's no balance.
another thing I was going to get at is when you have these upcoming women wrestlers, and not just women wrestlers, but any wrestlers, as we've seen with the Pat Patterson case. Whenever you have these upstarts who really don't have a name yet, they're trying to make a name for themselves. When they start saying things, maybe it could be, she booked me wrong, or she's picking on me, or I don't like the treatment I've been given, or whatever the case may be. So, and I'm not justifying this in any way, but whenever it's somebody like that, it's like, maybe they're telling the truth, maybe they're not. But when one of your largest sponsors threatens to pull their funding, now you have to address it. Now you
Correct.
have to give it the attention it's due.
Yeah.
Now you have to do the things you should have been doing before this ever came to light. No, they didn't care when it was just these women coming forward. And that's so scary for women to come forward and say these things, especially back in that time. But now you have one of your largest sponsors, one of your biggest funders, one of your biggest backers saying, "Hey, either fuck no or we go." So, Vin, I honestly think the only reason this gets the attention it's having is two reasons. One, Vince can't afford to lose that money. Two, it's
Correct.
cowardice, because I don't think these allegations would have come forward had Moolah been alive to defend herself. Now, whether she was right or wrong, if you're not going to come forward, and you're only coming forward because now the person can't defend themselves, I have a little bit to say about that. Because as Piers said, why is it just coming now? Well, because she's dead and gone and she can't defend herself.
And that's the thing. There's always going to be supporters of these people. There's always going to be people that'll defend them to the end. But there's also going to be people that are going to be coming forward and saying, "This is what's happened. This is my story." And and many people have come forward, and women have come forward. And we mentioned this in our first episode where I brought up the Mia Yim situation, where a lot of these women, in this interview that I saw, she was saying a lot of women in professional wrestling go through abusive relationships. And I think even in a way the relationship Moolah had with these young women, these trainees that she was training and bringing into the business, was she was basically preparing them maybe possibly for that, because when she was married to Buddy Rogers was, he was dipping his toe in the company ink many, many times, apparently. Like he was deep in there. So, you look at that aspect as well, who knows the toxic shit that was going on there.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that, especially like Penny Banner, she came out after Moolah died in 2007, and she was like, the first thing that came out of her mouth, well, I don't want to speak ill of the dead. And I'm not defending Moolah, but like you said, she didn't have a right to defend. She don't have time to defend herself because now she passed away. But she said that Moolah was, sending out undertrained, underage students to photo shoots, and they didn't know about it. They were just walking in thinking there was a wrestling match, and they were like, all right, ladies, it's time for a Hugh Hefner segment. And they were like, oh shit, I mean, that's the sucky part. How come they didn't come forward then? And I know they were underage. I'm just saying, and again, I don't even know how far underage they were, 17, 16, 18, but it's just I just don't see consistency in regards to the punishment that that everybody should be getting evenly.
Absolutely.
If you did something, that's the weird thing. It just fluctuates, and it only benefits Vince when somebody calls him out, like Snickers did. We're pulling our plug if this is not resolved immediately. Oh, this is some good shit. Let's get this shit off there.
I think Vince really, really leans on that fact that his wrestlers are contractors. That they're their own thing, which I've always thought was stupid. You can't say that and still have them under so many rules and regulations that you do. They're employees. What they do is a direct reflection on you and your company. But I think Vince tends to just stay away from things. Now, I do think he's getting better at it now, as we've seen with the Enzo Amore thing. But at the same time, he should have been given his due process. He shouldn't have just been fired immediately. But getting back to why we're here with the fabulous Moolah, look at the what was her name? Georgia Sugar Brown or something like that.
Sweet Georgia Brown.
Sweet Georgia Brown. There we go. There we go. Through her daughter's own admission. So this isn't Georgia Brown. This is Georgia Brown's daughter. Through her own admission, she would openly say things like, every time mom came to visit me, I had a new brother or sister. Maybe she's just that kind of girl. Maybe there's justification to what she's saying about Moolah, and Georgia Brown's made it perfectly clear that she does not believe in abortion or anything like that. So that's why she kept all the babies. Now, my thing is, if this is what happened, it is 100% wrong. But I personally believe the allegations. Once again, when there's so much evidence compiled against you, it's kind of hard to ignore. But when you look at the things that we have seen from Moolah and the things that Moolah has come out and said, like you said, Piers, Moolah is about money. She was getting cuts from every single girl that was wrestling. So every time she got a girl booked, she got a cut of that money. Mm-hmm. So she would want the girls to get booked. So she's going to tell these girls, look, if you want to get booked, and obviously the girls want to get booked because they want to get noticed. They want to get discovered. They need that ring time. They need those reps. Yeah, so hey, you do this, you get more reps. You do this, you get more ring time. And Moolah pockets the money. She's a modern day pimp. No easy way to say it. She's a modern day pimp.
They used to. Italian Stallion back in the days in WWF, he used to book guys for them, get them talent to do jobs, and if they were getting paid, and I'm just being generous here, if they were getting paid like $350, he was just paying them 100 and pocket the rest. He was just basically kind of doing the same thing. That's how Moolah was doing because I guess
Wasn't that
that's
one
how
of the
they.
biggest things about Moolah? She was keeping more than
Yeah,
50% of what they made.
correct. Because she's saying, I got you. I'm looking at it from a different angle, from a wrestler's mindset. I could see she's saying, well, I got you booked. I have costs and expenses,
You live on my
and
property.
you live on my property. And if it wasn't for me getting you booked to get you your foot in the door, then you would have not got there. So this is what I'm charging. And they accepted it. They knew, and not really, because I can't say they knew because they're not there at the negotiating table and they don't know what money. It's just almost like a security guard working for a company where the company goes out and gets these jobs and he charged $19 per guy, and then the guy gets $9 to do the job, and the guy who owns the company gets the remaining balance. It's basically kind of the same thing. They don't know what's on the negotiating table. They just know
Boss
they're
makes
getting this
$1 and
much.
I make a dime.
Yeah, you know.
That's
That's
why
why
I
I poop
poop
on
on the company
company
time.
time.
but you know what? Like you look at the fabulous Moolah, and like she even looks like a dead set fucking cunt. Like,
Agreed.
yeah, I mean,
Agreed.
she just looks like an obnoxious fucking cow. And the thing is, as well, like, do you remember in the 80s there was Wendy Richter, who was the women's champion,
Yeah.
and they
Oh,
bought,
I know where you're getting at with this.
yeah, and Vince bought out the what was it, the Masked Spider, or like Kevin, you probably remember the name.
Wasn't it like the Black Widow or the Masked Spider?
Yeah,
It was something like that.
it was something retarded like that. I think it was a Black Widow, and the Black Widow beat the live. Like, you could tell by if you've gone and watched the match, it looks like a complete shoot. Have
It is
you
a
know the
dumpster
match?
fire.
Yeah. Have you seen the match, Angel?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
a long time ago.
Yeah, no,
Angel was there
definitely.
front row.
I was there, man. I was there during Prohibition.
But no, she absolutely beat. And then, like, when the mask came off and it revealed it was Moolah, Wendy Richter was so pissed she actually left the building in her wrestling gear, and she never got back into wrestling ever.
Hey, just to correct you, it was the Spider Lady that
The
Moolah went
Spider
under.
Lady. I knew it was something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it was something just like 80s wrestling.
But and the thing is, if I recall correctly, Wendy Richter actually came out and said she was supposed to go over and retain. But Moolah being about Moolah, what brings in more money than being the champion? She actually went in there and she cinched it down and would not let that woman kick out. And I know this is very small compared to what we're addressing here, but it goes to the fact that, Moolah was money hungry. So she had to have the belt. She had to, you have all these take a guy like Sammy Callahan, for example. And the reason I bring up Sammy Callahan has his own promotion where he's the owner and the promoter. What is it? Revolver Wrestling or something like that. But
Yeah.
if you look at Sammy Callahan's record at Revolver, he's like 2-20, and he refuses to hold his own championship. Now, the reason I bring that up is you have guys like that who are there to get the talent over, but then you have people like Moolah who could give a shit less. She will step on the back of their necks to make herself better. She was all about money, which is why it's not that hard to believe these things being said about her.
It's funny. I'm looking at the match right here. I just found it on YouTube, and even though on the article it says the Spider Lady, but on the card it says Wendy Richter champion versus the Spider challenger. So I don't know which name she went under, either the Spider or the Spider Lady.
It was the Spider Lady. When you said that, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah,
But
I'll watch that later.
But the thing was, Vince made that call for Moolah to go over, though. No, like Moolah didn't go in there just for business for herself. Like, Vince would have brought Moolah in. Vince would have known what was going on, especially then.
I'm not saying that Vince didn't know what was going on. I'm sure he did. What I'm saying is it was led to believe to the champion at the time, Wendy Richter. Wendy Richter was told, you are going over. You are retaining. She went into that match as okay, I'm coming out with the win. Everybody else was given a different answer though. So I'm not saying Vince wasn't in on it. I'm saying Wendy Richter definitely wasn't in on it.
Yeah, so Jesus, sounds
Can
like
you say Montreal?
I was just about to say that. It's like the exact same thing for the Montreal screw job. But the thing is as well, like, you know, he brought Moolah in because obviously he trusted Moolah, and well, Vince trusted Moolah, and you know, Moolah was someone who was very close to Vince. Much like,
But I would go as far to say this: was it that he trusted her, or was it that he had enough dirt on her that he knew she wouldn't fuck him over?
Well, it says here that several minutes into the match, Spider Lady got Rickner in a small package. Rickner got her shoulder up after a count of 1, but the referee quickly slapped the mat 2 more times, and then the bell rang. At that point, it was a mass confusion. Richter went after Spider Lady and ripped the mask off, revealing Moolah. Richter then kept trying to continue the match. She slammed Moolah and went for the cover, but the referee wouldn't count. Howard Finkel then announced Moolah was the new champion. So they were aware. They knew what was going to happen. They had it planned.
Yeah, everybody was on it except Wendy Richter.
And that, you know, and that's the thing. Like, what sort of person have you got to be to go and do business that way? You know what I mean?
But see, and that's the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I'm just saying, like, what sort of person have you got to be to go and do business in a business with professional wrestling? From everything that I've learned about professional wrestling, from obviously you, Angel, it's like a brotherhood. It's a sisterhood. You will never sort of like do wrong by someone. You know what I mean? Like one of your own. And that's exactly what Moolah's done. And it goes back to my original comment was Moolah was only interested in Moolah, and she was only interested in Moolah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If Vince knew about the Spider Lady angle going on, he knew what was going on behind closed doors with Moolah's. And so that's why it's so he's like a hypocrite when he's like, well, we gotta pull her off because Snickers is because he's all about that, and she was fucking with his money. When you fuck with his money,
but we're going back to the Spider Lady thing. Like, are you saying that Vince wouldn't have known what was happening with that angle? Like back
no, but I mean, I think he knew, man. He knew what was going on because Howard Finkel was not gonna just, you know what I mean. The referee is not gonna. Yeah, it's planned. So Vince is knee deep in everything. He knows what's going on in the business, and he knows who's doing what. Just like the Patterson. I hate going back to it because that's our second episode. But he knows, man. He just plays dumb, like, well, this is a tragedy. This is we do not condone this kind of conduct. Bullshit.
Vince doesn't give attention until he has to give attention. Like I said, when all these women were coming forward, but I'm sure there had to have been someone coming forward. You know, Georgia Brown George Brown came forward and she was like, yeah, this happened. She didn't wait till Moolah died. She was openly vocal about, yes, this happened. 100% this happened. Nobody gave a shit. Then when but then when Snickers pulls the money, now Vince has something to lose. Now Vince is like, okay, I have to respond to this now. It's not a matter of if I want to. It's not a matter if I think it's right. It's not a matter if I think it's wrong. I have to.
I wish I knew the dollar amount that Snickers put into it just to see. I mean, regardless, I just want to know what he's like. Man, fuck this. I think
it was like 15 million or something. It was like something like really significant because it was a WrestleMania sponsor. Like, it's got to be big money. But the thing is as well, the thing is with Vince. Vince will sit there and he knows about shit. Like, Vince is a very intelligent guy, and the thing is, he knows shit, but he just sits there and goes, no one's figured it out yet. Fuck, they figured it out now. I've got to do something. You know what I mean? Like, instead of like just avoiding it, he'll sit there and go, all right, let's just see how this motherfucker plays out. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just puts himself in. I think that WWF put themselves in that situation. Like, come on, Vince doesn't know the history about Moolah before like WrestleMania a couple of years ago. I don't buy it, man. Come on.
I don't either. Look, in order we can look at all these organizations, we can look at all these promotions. The one constant's always been and always will be WWE. You don't get there by having rogue employees doing things for themselves, doing things on their own. You know what's going on. If you want to be that top company and you want to stay that top company, you know what your employees are doing, whether they're employees or self contractors, either way, you know what they are doing, whether you choose to recognize it or ignore it. So and this goes back to what wrestling is in its most purest form. What is wrestling? It is a suspension of our belief. Period, point blank. So, and that goes all the way up to the corporate office as well. To suspend your belief that, okay, Vince is going to suspend his belief that I believe that's going on, but I'm just no, I'm gonna leave it over there. It's wrestling, whatever. No, it's fucking bullshit. And I 100% believe Vince knew exactly what was going on, and he didn't care until it affected him.
I agree.
Yeah.
If you mean to tell me that Stephanie McMahon lived on the Moolah compound and was going through training with Moolah, I guarantee we'd heard this story 10 years ago.
Moolah would have been dead and buried. Like, a lot of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, let's be honest.
She'd be erased from every book known to wrestling. She would have been the first person to be uninducted into the Hall of Fame. But like I said, it didn't matter until it affected Vince.
Yeah, I agree. And that's just the way that Vince seems to operate. You know, like as I said before, Kevin.
Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, but like I said, they do a lot of things that are very reactive. And come on, Moolah had been in the professional wrestling business for what? Decades, 5 decades more.
Piers, that's the problem. That's the problem with wrestling. It's the problem with society. It's the problem with people. We are so conditioned to being reactive and not proactive. Angel, you can attest to this from being a police officer. Reactive police officers are the ones that go home in a box.
Correct.
You have to be proactive. Once you know something is going on, it's not, okay, well, we're just going to see how this plays out. No, you already need to be thinking how you're going to correct this situation. And I know, guys, I understand that I keep bringing this back to law enforcement and stuff like that, but I'm very passionate about my job. And it really does relate in many facets of professional wrestling, such as this. You have got to stop being reactive. You have to start looking to be proactive.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And just to let you know, Moolah started her wrestling career in her training in 1948. So she's it was many moons in the business.
About what 6 months before you was on Angel?
Oh yeah, I was there.
6 months after.
I was sugar daddy Shade, and
the Puerto Rican prince.
There you go.
Yeah, but look, I think with the fabulous Moolah, and the compound of women that she had there, but also, what about the marriage to Buddy Lee? Her marriage, that she caught him in bed with one of her trainees.
Look, I'm not saying that, she wasn't, I don't want to say conditioned, but I do believe there were certain factors of Moolah's young career, like seeing things like that. I'm sure she saw her fair share of it in the locker rooms and talks with other female wrestlers. But here's the thing. Take a child, for example, okay? If I were to go give my 2-year-old son a crayon and he starts coloring on the walls, that's normal to him. He's normal to it. But when you get older, when you get wiser, when you get life experience and you know what happens and you know right from wrong, then it is your moral obligation to act in a professional manner and stop doing things because, you might not have known it was wrong when you were doing it,
mm-hmm.
but when you get to the point where you know it's wrong, Anything you do after that, you are accountable for. I can understand, I don't want to say not being accountable, but definitely, uh, taking in the other circumstances when you don't know something is wrong. But
Yeah.
once you are taught right from wrong and then you continue to do wrong, now you are held responsible. Now you have to answer for the things you've done. So when she started her career and this was normal to her and this is just what everybody did. Okay, maybe she thought, okay, this is pro wrestling. This is what you come to expect from pro wrestling. So in the beginning of her career, when all this is normal to her, okay, got it. She's been a victim of circumstance. People have taught her that this is okay, but now when she learns the difference from right and wrong, now when she's old enough to know, okay, that was shady shit. I'm not gonna do that. Or she goes, I'm going to keep doing this. From that point on, when she learned right from wrong, she is accountable for everything that happened.
I agree.
Yeah, but the problem is that once you've been trained in certain, I mean, like once it's instilled in you, it's hard to break that habit, especially if that's how you were trained back then and that's how it was back then. Again, I'm not condoning it. It's just,
But no, you're absolutely right. It's like I was just saying, if I sit here every day and I tell my son, I go, hey, it's okay to walk up to somebody and punch him in the face. That's perfectly okay. And he does it every day. My friends come over. He just walks up. It's as custom to him as a handshake. Instead of handshakes, we punch each other in the face. Now to him, that's okay. Once he goes and gets that real world experience, now he needs to learn that's not okay.
But that's the thing. I mean, Fabulous Moolah was an adult.
Yeah, absolutely.
She knew what she
But
was
she
doing
was
wrong.
she was an adult, but she was a child in professional wrestling. She was green in pro wrestling. And I'm not saying just because it's pro wrestling it's okay. What I'm saying is she got dove headfirst into a lifestyle she didn't understand. She got dove headfirst into a lifestyle that she knew nothing about. Everybody starts somewhere. Even if she started wrestling, when she started wrestling, even if she knew a little bit about it, she still didn't know because she didn't experience it. Like I can't speak as much as Angel can. You can't speak as much as Angel can. But she was a child in the eyes of pro wrestling. So, like I said, not to say it's okay in pro wrestling, but if that's the norm and that's just what happens, but now she goes through pro wrestling. She goes to a few different territories, a few different promotions, and she sees, okay, it's not supposed to be like this. Now she has to change, and she didn't. So she is 100% at fault for this. And I do believe her and both Pat Patterson, not to keep going back to that, but hey, you guys love that episode, so why not talk about it? Anyway, her and Pat Patterson both should be ripped from the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I concur. But again, I mean, they're not going to do that because, I mean, it's already said and done.
Because it's admitting Vince was wrong.
The only way it could happen if somebody invests. I know the previous podcast was the most popular podcast. I mean, it was the only podcast we have besides this one. But the thing is that unless somebody brings it up, unless somebody like investigates it and really brings a fucking stink to it, then that's when Vince, just like the Snicker thing, he's gonna go shit.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, and I'm not trying to cut Piers out. I know he hasn't got a chance to speak in a little bit, but just really quick before I forget this, if that investigation did happen, if it came out that these things were legit and these did happen, I still don't think they would be pulled from the Hall of Fame, because the one thing Vince loves more than money is knowing he was right. And in this instance, he would have to admit he was wrong, not just once, but twice. And it'll be a cold day in hell before that ever happens. I think they should be ripped from the Hall of Fame? Yes. Do I ever think Vince will admit he was wrong? I think he will play ignorant and stupid before he admits he was wrong.
He'd be like, well, pal, I think there was a lot of things that I wasn't knowledgeable about.
This knowledge wasn't privileged to me at the time.
Look, pal, I didn't know. I'm not a crook.
But do you think that when he does pass away, that whoever takes the helm at the time would correct that mistake?
I would hope so, just because of like what I just said. When you don't know something is going on, it's one thing. When you know what's going on, it's a completely different animal. So now that Vince knows this happened, for him to leave them in the Hall of Fame is absolutely a monstrosity. So if I were stepping in and I was the one who said, "Look, I'm taking over and I'm at the wheel now," these two are coming out. As much heat as I would get for pulling two of the people out of the Hall of Fame, I would sleep better at night. My conscience would be clear because I'm not condoning that. I'm not going to put my name on something that I know is wrong, that was absolutely disgusting, that was horrible, and ruined God knows how many lives. For me to take over, I would have to be okay with what I'm taking over. And I'm here to tell you right now, I would not be okay with those two being in the Hall of Fame, in my Hall of Fame, because now when people look up my Hall of Fame, those two names to be associated with it, attached to everything else they're associated with, guilt by association has gotten people life in prison, and I'm not going to prison for anybody.
Okay. Tell us how you feel. And Pierce, what about you?
I think.
By the way, prison was a metaphorical speaking, guys.
I think the whole situation, and you can put in there that she was young in wrestling world and age, or whatever you want to put it. To me, there's right and then there's wrong. What Moolah did was wrong, plain and simple. She took advantage of young women, young girls, forced them to have sex and perform sexual acts with men old enough to be their fathers and grandfathers. We've seen, sweet Georgia Brown, she had so many kids that, from all different fathers. Her son went and asked Moolah, "Who was my father?" And he saw a photo of Buddy, Moolah's ex-husband, and he believes that was his father. So, what sort of crazy ass lifestyle was Moolah and her husband living in? And then throw in the fact that you've got this stable of female professional wrestlers living in your house at your disposal, that would sit there and be at your every beck and call, that would take what you say as gospel. Come on, man. Like, what? She knew what she was doing the whole time. She knew she was a straight out pimp.
Yeah, absolutely. If I recall correctly, and I could be wrong on this, but I don't think I am. Not only did they live on Moolah's compound, but Moolah did the grocery. She controlled the food. She controlled the whatever they drank. She controlled everything, and that's how she justified them turning over so much of their earnings to her, because it's my utilities, it's my property, it's my home, it's my food, it's my water, it's my this, my that. You literally have to do nothing other than show up and wrestle. And I've provided you all of that. So be happy with this $100 and me keeping the $400. Not to say that's the actual purse, but, it goes along those same lines. So Moolah knew exactly what she was doing. And she was cashing. She made more money outside the ring than she ever did inside the ring.
One thing I heard was Pierce.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Oh, I thought he went to the bathroom. But anyway, I heard that she used to kick in the doors of the cabins and go, "Once again, it is time for the Godfather to ride the whole train. Get on this bus." No, but I mean, not to be a pimp.
Seriously though, I have heard many stories where she has taken men to her compound for that exact reason. Maybe not the Godfather, but definitely. You mean to tell me that her ex-husband wasn't going down there to that woodshed where all the women were sleeping and just didn't have his? I highly doubt it. If she was sending people out for it, I'm sure she was bringing people in for it.
Oh,
now the funny thing, as I was reading one of the articles, that they said that when she sent her trainees on tour, and usually mean tour like overseas to Japan or Dubai or something like that, and that they knew that when they got there, they're like, "Hey, you need to give it up," and they were like, "No, they got raped." So either you had two options: either give it or we take it. And that was one of the things that I read about that. And of course, they didn't want to get raped, so they did it.
Which
That's sad.
essentially is that they're being forced into it. It's a form of rape, essentially.
And especially when it's overseas. And I'm just saying, like, if you go to Australia and you rape the girl that's on tour with you, and then you come back to the States, well, we can't. And as a cop, they go, "Hey, I've been raped," and then you go, "Well, ma'am, due to the fact that it's out of our jurisdiction, we definitely will contact the Australian Police Department to do an outside assist case. But due to the fact that it's out of our jurisdiction, we can't do nothing about it." That's from our my past experience, that anything out of the United States, it's all we could do is file a report.
Yeah. But, the one question that I have is, how come Moolah was never confronted about this? How come Moolah was never confronted about the things that she did, the mistakes that she made, or not even mistakes that she made? No, she didn't mistake. She didn't go, "Oh shit, I accidentally pimped out some bitches." She was like, how come? Like, the thing is to me is why was none of this, like, not even a snippet of this, brought out any earlier? Like, we saw the Pat Patterson thing got exposed in the 90s. Yeah.
But how do you know nobody did know? I mean, back, like I told you, there's times where we had, and again, I'm not trying to get off topic, but I'm just giving you a slight example. How many times when wrestlers have girls in the room, and then you hear that, and the boys show up, they know what's going on in that room, and then they show up and join the party. I mean, it's the same thing. They know what's going on. They know the shenanigans.
But to piggyback off what Angel just said, to answer Pierce's question, put yourself in a young wrestler's shoes. Let's say, this is going on, okay? And you know that Vince's boss. You know that.
Yeah.
So who's to say that they didn't go and tell him, and Vince is just like, I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'll definitely look into it. This is something we're taking very seriously. And they reassure you that they believe, not only do they believe you, but they are on your side. But at the same time, they're just telling you what you want to hear. So maybe these people were coming forward, but the people they were coming forward to, unbeknownst to them, were the wrong people to tell. Because this has never been talked about. This has never been speculated. I don't know. This is just me in my head and the things I've seen in my law enforcement career.
I hear voices in my head.
You mean to tell me Moolah's banking all that money and she's not paying some kind of security deposit? She's not paying somebody to help her out, somebody to keep her wise to what's going on? Not saying anybody was in Moolah's pocket, but is it that far-fetched to think that it may have happened?
No, I don't think it's that far-fetched to think that it could have happened. I think that, let me put it to you this way. If they go, let's say hypothetically, they took this to Vince, and Vince gave them the big, "I'm so sorry this happened to you. This is not what the WWF is all about," yada, 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 give you all the reassurance. Are you then going to wait 20 and go, "All right, well, it's been 15 years. He hasn't done anything. I'm going to give him another 5 years. And once it hits that 20-year mark, if he hasn't done anything, by golly, I'm going to take this to the next level." Well, on 20 years?
That's why I say, it's about who you, and it shouldn't be this way, but I honestly believe it was. It's about who you tell about this. Look at it like this, okay? We're all fathers. If a stranger approaches your child, what do you tell them? Run and scream as loud as you possibly can. Make a huge scene. Let everybody hear it. And why do you do that? Because one person might, whatever, but you get a group of people to hear you, something is going to happen. The more people you make aware, the better your chances. So you go and talk to one person. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
Maybe that person's in on it, maybe they're not. But you start blowing the whistle to the head of creative, the head of talent relations, the head of the company, the CEO, law enforcement, churches, whoever. You start blowing that whistle and you scream as loud and you talk to anybody who's going to hear you, that's your best chance. I've learned that in law enforcement. I've learned that throughout my entire military career. Whenever there's an issue, obviously, if it's something that can be handled in house with somebody you trust, great, perfect. But if you don't know anybody and you don't know who you can trust and you don't know who's in business for themselves and who's really going to help you, you need to latch onto as many ears as you can. We teach that to our kids when they're young, and for some reason we lose that when we become adults.
I wonder, like as we're talking about this, I wonder how much Mae Young knew due to the fact that she was always with her. I mean, I don't know what time frame they were together, like buddies or whatever, but I bet you she knew a lot of shit that a lot of people didn't know.
And it's
Well,
probably
Mae
going to
Young-
take
Mae
another
Young trained her.
Snickers. It's probably going to take another Snickers sponsorship threatened to be pulled for anything to come out about her. If
Well,
there
that's
is
weird.
anything, not saying there is.
Well,
But that's just the way.
Mae Young actually trained Fabulous Moolah.
But what's funny though? I mean, the Mae Young tournament. No, I mean, I'm not saying something should have came up. It's just weird that, I mean, that would have came up right there and then because she was doing the Mae Young tournament at that time. I mean, she was dead, of course, but you know what I mean.
You're absolutely right, but you got to think about it like this too, Angel. You spent time as a police officer. How many times have you been involved in drug operations or drug stings and you end up catching someone that you never knew was involved because they're a silent partner?
True.
Not saying that happened, guys. I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying this shit actually happens. This is real world shit that is a possible. The only thing we know for a fact is Moolah did some dumb shit. She did some nasty, despicable shit. Not saying that Mae Young was involved. Not saying she wasn't. Not saying Vince was involved. Not saying they weren't. Not saying anybody was involved. I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility that these things did happen. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that these women were set up from the fucking start.
I just think Moolah was the Tony Montana and
The ringleader.
the ringleader, and Mae Young was his buddy putting the money in the machine.
Moolah was playing first string quartet, and Mae Young's just sitting there, the composer.
Could be.
Not saying she was, but I'm saying it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Not on the realm of possibility. I agree.
Yeah, but come on, no one's come out and said anything about Mae Young.
And we were saying that just a few years ago about Fabulous Moolah. Look where we're at now.
Look, I think
You never know. Maybe Mae Young was dressed like the Black Scorpion and had a hood on, and nobody knew it was her.
But like we said, and I understand what Piers is getting at. Like we said, we're not saying this happened. We're not saying it didn't. We're saying it's not out of the realm of possibility.
yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I find it highly unlikely, just due to the fact that nothing's been said of it. I think Moolah and Mae Young, they were really. I don't think they were doing much work together in the 80s. They were doing work together in their 80s, just not the 80s decade. They were really doing a lot during the Attitude Era, but I don't know if their careers, their paths would have crossed much in the earlier stages of their careers. I could be wrong, but
well, we'll never know because they're no longer here. So unless somebody else comes out or has a, just like that commercial, roll that beautiful bean footage and have some evidence, then all we're doing is just going off of speculatory and in our opinion.
yeah, and that's what this whole show is about, is to obviously have the speculation and opinions of the topic that we're breaking down. With the Fabulous Moolah, let's go around and ask the question, should she have been in the Hall of Fame?
No.
And no? Angel?
No. I think it should be across the board. If it's going to happen to Pat, it should happen to her.
I think they both should be pulled.
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement with both of you gentlemen. I also think that, how long has, well, as I said before, Vince is not an idiot. Vince is a very smart man. You don't get as far as he's gotten to in any business if you don't have a brain on, between your shoulders. And he is very intelligent. I think he's known a lot of what's going on over the years, and he's either thrown a rug over it or turned a blind eye to it.
100% agree.
All right.
And for the sake of not beating a dead horse, I'm sure we can do part 2 and part 3 and part 4 on this, and still not even scratch the surface. But
We'll
for
be
the
in our
sake of
80s.
for the sake of today and being respectful of all our viewers' times, Angel, how about you send us home, bud?
I think Angel's just frozen. He'll come back to us in a second. So, but look, I just wanted to, Kevin, tell everyone where they can find you.
Guys, once again, the first and second episode, you guys have let us know that this is something you guys are interested in and something you want us to keep doing. So we're gonna keep doing it, guys. As for this show, you can always catch me here at Wrestling with Tragedy on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere you follow social media. And like I said, even though this is pre-recorded, anything you guys want us to touch on, hit on, or give our input about, make sure you hit us up on those social media platforms, and we'll definitely hit on that upcoming in the near future. But other than that, guys, you can always catch me on Wrestling Review Society Facebook and YouTube page, where I run the Thursday night War Room. Thursday night, guys, no longer on Wednesdays. Thursday night War Room, where I interview your favorite pro wrestlers and give you the opportunity to ask the questions you've been waiting a lifetime to ask. So with that being said, guys, that's all for me. Piers, what you got?
Yeah, well, you can also find me here with Wrestling with Tragedy. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Please make sure to go to our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe. Hit that little bell thing so then you get notified every time that we upload a new episode of Wrestling with Tragedy. You can also find me at Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance. I'm the host of
I'm back, baby.
I'm the host of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. It's a weekly show, very similar to Kevin's show, except my show is uncensored and we say whatever the fuck we want and do whatever the fuck we want, but we always do it with a weekly guest, which is a professional wrestler or someone from the world of professional wrestling.
Well, hey, let me close off since I was going to start it, but let me finish it. But hey, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching Wrestling with Tragedy with the greatest threesome on the internet today. I also want to thank the heelturn.com for promoting our show. And like I said, guys, this is the greatest show I've ever been on. And, that comes from the heart. And again, tune in next week. We'll definitely have a great topic for you to discuss. And let's get out of here. Roll that beautiful beam footage.
See you guys next time.
Take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching.
Woo! Greater